If there was ever a show made for us, this might be today.
I mean, listen, there are some people describing it as the best case scenario. And to me, that is the epitome of loser mentality. We'll get to that later. How you feeling about Shidor? You feeling good today?
Yeah, I got to feel good about Shedeur today. Yes.
Any victory laps you'd like to take? Right?
No. We're better than the victory laps.
We are not.
You can't
take
ride.
The
There's
lap.
too many highs and lows and everything that comes with talking football. You don't believe me when I say this. I don't take the highs and run with them. I don't. I bury myself in the lows because I'm just a masochist or something. I'm not sure. I just murder myself with the lows.
But when chains and whatnot.
When the highs happen, you got to take it in stride because the NFL, the way this works is they're just waiting to just go ahead and slap you across the face next week and figure it all out from there. But it felt really good. It felt really good to be able to have Shedeur play the way that he did. Nick, not just the idea that he looked good. Think about how he looked good. You had only Joe Bitonio was the starting lineman from week 1 that was on the field in yesterday's game. You were down to 4 backup offensive linemen. You had 3 different pass catchers get injured in that game. He got 64% of pressure on plays, and he was dealing. Like, that was a lot of fun.
So here's, you do need to take a victory lap today. The many supporters should be taking a victory lap because for 8 months, people have gotten progressively negative, more negative about Shedeur, and for a majority of those 8 months, he hasn't played. Like, I am Switzerland. I can only take so much of a victory lap for being open-minded to Shedeur, being a good NFL quarterback. But, like, I understand the idea of, like, because here's the thing, if you don't do it today, there's not a mythical time in the future you will. It's not like at the end of the season, if he's got 4 more good games ahead of him like he did yesterday, it's going to be 4 weeks late.
We got enough time for I Was Right radio. Don't worry. There's enough. I do love that part of life. I love I Was Right. But I don't. No. We don't. Unless I'm, shooting off celebration cannons, we take things in stride, Nick. That's how we do things around here.
You didn't want to bring the cannon back today, huh?
I wanted to. It was a loss. I couldn't bring it back in a loss.
Yes, you could.
No, I couldn't.
Yes, because it was an L for them and it was a dub for you.
This is where my emotional strings are being pulled in every single direction. Did last night feel good in many ways? Yes, it did. Do I feel better about the idea that in a loss the season's going nowhere? Like, if the season was going to the postseason, or if the year was going to the postseason, that would have been crushing to lose that game in that situation in many ways. But there are enough Browns fans out there that just think we did enough for the draft board yesterday, and that's the win. And then Shedeur looking good and being able to evaluate him for the rest of the season, that's also the win. And so I left last night feeling overall very optimistic.
I would love to be able to have a true representation of where Browns fans are today, with the 3 things from that game that left you feeling some sort of way. And it's really 4 things, if we're being honest. It's Shedeur's 4 touchdown performance. And not just that, it's the highs and lows of the interception in the third quarter that gave Tennessee the lead, basically. And then watching him mount a comeback. So that's one part of it. The handling of Shedeur in the fourth quarter while he was dealing, including the 2-point conversions.
Yep.
Well, that's another part of it, which is, again, why you lost. The coaching boo-boos across from Bubba to Kevin to Tommy. And then, of course, the defense picking the worst week you could have to have the worst week. Like, I saw...
That was Tony Pollard, Jim Brown.
Not just that.
What happened there?
But, like, honestly, guys, Cam Ward wanted to give you this game. He wanted to give you 4 interceptions.
I'm getting so angry thinking about the amount of people that were even questioning, like, did Cam Ward play a better game than Shedeur yesterday? What are you talking about? Stop huffing paint. It was very obvious who the better quarterback in the field was yesterday.
I can't remember the jamoke from Nashville radio, but somebody had put the stats up of Shedeur and Cam Ward, and he's like, well, one of these guys plays the number 2 defense. I'm like, the Browns have the number 2 defense, but they just played like number 2 yesterday.
Yeah, I mean, that was a wild amount of people that were trying to make the case that Cam Ward looked awesome in that game. As if the Devin Bush interception, by the way, just never existed. As if he didn't have all sorts of throws that were nowhere close and only threw for 140 yards passing. That was bothersome. What I thought early on the narrative was going to be, after the Quinshawn 58-yarder to the house, I thought people were going to be like, because he started accumulating a lot of numbers very quickly in that game, and I was like, oh no. people are just going to wipe away. They're going to say it is all because of the 58-yarder, and it's not going to look good. And I'm like, oh no. And then obviously you end up with the game where he has almost 400 all-purpose yards. He is the leading rusher in the game. He is obviously the leading passer in the game, and he made a million big-time throws that we can talk about.
I mean, I just think the push and pull of today, and I'd love to get the true representation where you're at today, is are you more excited about Shedor's big game or angry at Kevin Stefanski? Because I had 4 hours. That was a slow game yesterday. I had 4 hours of Stefanski. And we can say, well, Tommy Rees called this play, or, well, Bubba Ventrone, he's the head coach of the team. For the love of God, you can ascribe some blame to the head coach of the team. That versus I was really worried I was going to have to come in here and be like, Shedeur lost the game, because that's how bad that interception was, only for that young man to go out and within, 5 minutes, 6 minutes, put together 2 game-winning drives. In what I honestly is not even close, the best quarterbacking performance we've seen.
Not even close.
And honestly, not just this year, because that's the lowest bar ever. Probably since Joe Flacco picked one of the games back in 2023.
I mean, he rallied in a way that we've seen him do at Colorado, and he took it to the next level. And so, like, this was in start 3, he throws for 360 yards, accounts for 4 touchdowns in what I've described as just the most banged up offensive line in the sport, and 3 pass catchers out in that game. Like, that is a chef's kiss of a performance by Shedeur. And when we talk about it, we have to keep going to the idea that there are so many quarterbacks, veterans in this league, that would have absolutely faltered under those circumstances with that situation, the way that you're playing with just a starved offense that was just, they had nothing on that team at that point.
Also, he wasn't playing against IUPUI. This narrative, and listen, let's just be honest. If you're not totally convinced on Shedeur, we're cool. If you are, if you're like, I need to see that a couple more times before I get too excited, we are cool. If you are negating what he did yesterday, just admit it, you're not a Browns fan anymore. If you can't take enjoyment out of what that was yesterday, even in a loss, even against the Titans, I'm sorry. Like, guys, we've seen plenty of Browns quarterbacks. We've seen Dylan Gabriel throw for 160 yards against the New York Jets in a loss.
That was like 3 Dylan Gabriel's games worth of production, by the way.
Like, I understand that Shedeur is a lightning rod. I understand there were a myriad of reasons that you might not like him, including some that are really just stupid, petty, and some that are just really horrific. But if you can't get excited by what you saw yesterday, I think you just might not be, liking football anymore.
So the only part that did make me mad was the idea that, and obviously we'll touch on this a little bit later on, but the idea that, this ended any conversation about whether or not the Browns could evaluate quarterbacks when you think Dylan Gabriel was anything close to that guy. But it also makes it just so obvious and so clear that the discussion the entire time was just fraught with all sorts of problems. And clearly, if it was a misevaluation, call it what it was. But then they don't know how to evaluate. And on top of it, I can't believe so many people fell for that line of thinking and just took what they spoon-fed them and just acted as if that was what was obviously happening with the idea.
It doesn't sound like you're talking about fans, by the way. It sounds like you're talking maybe more in a professional sense.
So many people in this instance. They got spoon-fed information. I had all sorts of people here coming up and showing me Browns are saying this about behind the scenes. Oh, yeah, okay, because I'm going to believe everything the Browns tell me, and these people believed them. They believed what the Browns told them. They ran with it, and it was so irresponsible that I can't even have it.
I was so confused.
So irresponsible.
I was so confused all of yesterday night. One, because I was watching the Bears-Packers game, which I don't care what the score says. That was just a dud of a game. There was so much bad quarterbacking in that, but I digress. So I was a little bummed that didn't live up to the hype in my head. And 2, I was confused because I was like, well, I really want to be excited about Shedeur. But also, God, Kevin Stefanski.
So you know what this is, though? This is the Baker game against the Raiders, where Nick Chubb went off and had a couple major runs. You lose that one 45-42 in overtime, but Baker looked awesome in that game. I think that was another 350-yard performance for Baker, and that's very early on in his rookie season. That is after, obviously, the Jets game in Week 3, but that's the first runway that he had, and it was a loss. It was a loss, but there was so much hope attached to that loss and scoring a 40-point performance that you just have to resign yourself to the idea that was for the greater good almost. Like, that wasn't for Shedeur. It doesn't mean Shedeur is going to be the franchise quarterback for the next 10 years and we go to the Super Bowl and everything's awesome after one game. But he gets the next 4 games. He gets the runway to continue to show what he can do, and then we're off to the races. Hopefully, we're off to the races.
We'll get to the best-case scenario for Browns fans and why I hate that mentality. I do think yesterday was potentially the best case scenario for supporters, because I think you got to see Shidor. You got validated with Shidor and all the nonsense of the NFL machinations against this kid, while also you're one step closer to Kevin Stefanski getting fired. So to the supporters out there, that really was a pipe dream moment. Like, could it really ever be this good?
I thought it was going to be impossible to have him have a game like he did yesterday, and the prevailing thought afterwards wasn't going to be anything but Stefanski's awesome. Wow, look at the work that he did.
Yep.
I didn't know that we could have this type of moment, and because you know, because we've been talking about it for months. What was going to make me the most angry through all of this was them trying to take credit for Shedeur being good at football. He's always been good at football. Okay, there's nothing Stefanski did in 3 weeks that made the light bulb go on. Okay, and I was getting ready to be angry about it all, but the way yesterday went down, that's not the conversation at all.
Listen, we'll wait to see what Albert Breer has to say tomorrow at 5:20. That would be my only rebuttal there, because. Oh, I remember. He lit us up. He tanned that ass, I think, if I remember his MMQB.
He said your name, not mine there. So,
I remember whose name he said. It is about whatever the hell that Kevin Stefanski was thinking. Because here's the thing. While I was watching Shedeur yesterday, there is the element of, this is what we were hoping we could get at some point from this young man. But because we saw that 3 games in, the first thing I did was go back and be like, man, I wonder how much ahead of schedule he could have been if he had just been treated like he was alive from like April until like 4 weeks ago.
I don't think it's an accident that before and after the Raiders game, he talked about what would happen if he had a full off season of training and a full off season of getting the reps and getting number one. Like, all these things matter. They chose a different guy. They chose poorly, and it was proof positive based off of yesterday.
And I just think with Shedeur, listen, 1 game is a lot to say he's the quarterback of the future. Mm-hmm. But now I believe it's possible. Right? Like, now it's like listen, the idea that he's going to do what he did yesterday 4 more times this year with pass catchers going down. You lost Posick for the rest of the year with a snapped Achilles, which stinks, by the way, that he's going into free agency and he has that. That just,
I guess Wyatt Teller's again he's out next week as well.
Well, I mean,
that's what we heard.
You got to see more. Like Tevin, I don't think Tevin Jenkins played that bad.
I did watch Carly's TikTok yesterday, and that's not what she was saying was going to happen in the TikTok, just for whatever it's worth.
But so your offensive line's going down. That defense might have checked out yesterday, and we just don't know it. Like, I think we know it. But like, it's tough to see him repeating that 4 more times over the final 4 games of the season. But I now go into these games thinking, hey, you have a chance in December. Simply because this kid played the way he did against the Titans.
Well, you have a chance in December, and if everything goes well, you have some flexibility. Like, you don't have to force anything with the quarterback at the top of the draft. You don't have to force anything with potentially trading all your picks to move up to get a quarterback. You don't even have to think about, again, if things go well, you don't have to think about the stupid, like, Kirk Cousins discussions we had last offseason and everything that accompanies all this stuff. Like, life is so much sweeter if this just works out. That's where the excitement for Browns fans has to come from, is that not only are you a much better ball club if Shedeur ends up being the franchise quarterback and is the answer, but it just gives you so much more flexibility, and it gives you way more of a chance to start winning sooner.
Yeah, I mean, if you can do that, no matter who you're playing after 3 weeks of first team reps with a battered situation, and you can just get something in between. If you just get the aggregate between the first 2 starts and yesterday for the next 4 weeks, well, what is he going to look like with a full off season? And again, it doesn't guarantee nothing. Like, hell, you could have taken this kid with a number 2 pick. Nothing is guaranteed. You've got to do it long term, and you've got to show growth over a long amount of time. But like, there wasn't a single moment where I watched Dylan Gabriel play that I was like, oh, he is decidedly better than the day before.
Right. Yeah.
And now 3 games in, and again, it should be important that, like, They can say, well, we're really protecting him. Maybe true, maybe not, because they've lost the right for you to trust them on anything they say, not just because they've been patently and absurdly wrong about these two quarterbacks, but the point is, like, you come back to what they're doing. You come back, the fact that he's done this gives you hope of, man, with a left tackle, maybe a couple guards, and a true playmaker up there alongside Fannin and Judy, and all of a sudden you could have the only thing you need, which is a league average offense.
Well, and think about it. Everyone's like, oh, the offensive line looked so good yesterday. They looked good for 3 weeks. And first off, I don't think that's an accident that now all of a sudden everyone starts to look good. But Shedeur was still pressured on 64% of his plays. That's the highest rate Tennessee has had all season long. Like, they were doing everything they could in order to generate the pressure they needed to. Shedeur just made it look like it wasn't happening. Shedeur was able to make it look like it was normal football. And I don't think enough credit goes to him in those type of areas in that situation.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I think the playmaking stuff, it's funny, of all the plays he made, and that Judy throw was a Shedot just on the money. To me, though, the play that was like I don't want to say it's like the Baker Mayfield special, but the play that I was like, that's my quarterback, it was a touchdown run. That was an absolute broken play. It was a time where I've seen Dylan turtle, and I've seen Joe Flacco turtle this year, and I've certainly seen Deshaun turtle. I've seen so many guys turtle in that moment. To watch him, who, again, the knock on him is he's not mobile. Right? The knock on him is he's not his father, and you and I both, this is something that I will take a small victory lap on. I'm like, just because he's not Deion freaking Sanders doesn't mean the kid can't move.
And we have to emphasize just how bad that line was that he was playing at Colorado.
Yes.
Like, that is, because I know people, they'll pull up the rushing numbers at Colorado. They're in the negative. Like, because the sacks count as yards, they're in the negative by a decent amount. But that's because he had one of the worst offensive lines in college football history. Like, you do have to account for that in some regard. He can use his legs, but it's not the feature that I think a lot of people would think it would be.
So I know a lot of people just want to do the rubber stamp. Shedeur became the future quarterback of the Cleveland Browns yesterday. I'm not there yet. But what I will tell you is he did the things like, we've talked about this. When you have this owner, when you have this dysfunction, when you have disorganization, you can't just be a dude. You can't just be some schmo.
You gotta be something special.
You can't be, oh, shucks, Kirk Cousins, you like that. No, you need to have something within you, some sort of spark, toughness, grit, charisma, some thing of that. There's no coincidence that the only time we've seen that has been Baker Mayfield, and now it is 3 games, but we're seeing it from Shedeur. And what is the comp you and I have made since the draft? It has been Baker Mayfield.
Right, that's why I tell people, I think the number one thing I've been drawn to with Shedeur the entire time has been, I see so much of the two of them, and whether that's Shedeur and Baker, whatever way you want to describe it, like, it exists, and it's in the intangibles in many ways, it's in the toughness that I can't believe the amount of people I heard today being like, I had no idea Shedeur was that tough. I was worried about how slight a frame he was. I didn't know that. It's like, did you ever watch him at Colorado at all?
Are you
like,
Booger McFarland? You only watched Ohio State once this year?
What are you talking? I think that was like one of the top 5 features everyone brings up consistently about Shedeur is his toughness.
I had no idea he was Deion's kid.
Right? Like, did you just
who was going to tell me?
I couldn't believe it. Okay, clearly the people I'd been arguing with for 8 months never watched any Colorado tape ever. Okay, great.
Have you guys heard about
fantastic.
this? Shedeur's a right-handed quarterback.
It was basically that point. I was like, what are we doing? And that's fine.
It's also
that's
very
fine.
accurate.
There's
I mean, these things are blowing my mind.
Listen, that's all right. If a lot of Browns fans and a lot of people we discuss this stuff with have to slowly and surely learn about Shedeur through these games, I'm glad he's got the 4-game runway to try to figure this all out and to be able to showcase what he can do. But it is just that. It's a 4-game runway, and then we'll go from there. But it's fantastic he's going to have the opportunity.
And here's the thing. This is another important thing where I don't love throwing things to it's a lost season, because there are a lot of guys who played really hard this year. And it's tough to say, like, for a guy like Mason Graham who's gotten better and Carson Schweshender who's gotten better. Like, this is only a lost season if this isn't a bridge to something somewhere at some point. Meaning guys like that and Shedeur and Dylan and Quinchon and like if these
Fannin.
guys aren't a part of something that you're building going forward, if there is a reset in the coaching staff. But you just can't convince me that you out there aren't thinking, Man, what would this season have looked like if you had maybe waited, given Joe Flacco 2, maybe 3 more weeks, and getting Shedeur ready to play this whole time? Because even though I still don't know you're a playoff team, maybe you could have been that 7 to 8 win team, and really it felt much more like a bridge to somewhere instead of, well, next year now he's got to prove he can be the quarterback and win and all this other stuff.
It had a chance to be drastically different.
Yeah.
It had a chance. They chose Dylan. They chose poorly, and that's why they got to live with those decisions, though. That's why when you're back-to-back 3-win teams in consecutive seasons, and people are saying, oh, but he didn't have the talent. He didn't. No. Stefanski had decisions he got to make. He chose poorly, or at least somebody in the front office had decisions they got to make. They chose poorly.